Remember, at the end of the day, you're not Heather Dubrow.
Yeah.
You're not Heather Dubrow. That's a mitzvah in itself. Yes. Oh, God. Do I spot it? I got it?
In some way, I'm sure.
Fuck.
It's time to take A Therapeutic Dose, a prescription-strength reality TV podcast that explores the intersection of reality TV and therapy. Possible side effects may include entertainment, strong emotional reactions, and/or laughter. Here are your hosts, Ramona Ramirez and Margie McGee.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to A Therapeutic Dose, where we meet at the intersection of reality TV and therapy. I am Margie McGee, and with me, as always, thank God, is my dear friend and co-host.
Hi, everyone. I am Ramona Ramirez. And Margie, you're a salve on my heart. I'm very happy to see you. Very happy to see you. This is the first episode that we are recording post-election day. Obviously, we have a lot of feelings. Obviously, I would assume that you guys have a lot of feelings. I want to say that if anyone out there is feeling scared, hopeless, unsure what to do, not even sure, numb, I think I can safely say that we validate every single feeling that you're having and that you're not alone. Right now, whatever self-care looks like has to be good enough. I told Margie before we started recording, I take Wegovy, so I don't really stress eat anymore. This was the first week where I was in front of the cupboard with my hand in a bag of potato chips that have the time I forget they're even in there. I don't really eat them because they don't sound good. And this week I just needed to fucking crunch. I just needed to aggressively do something with my mouth. And I just did it without judgment. I just can't, I am scared of falling into despair. So whatever I can do to not fall into despair, I'm going to try to do, It all just feels messy right now. It feels messy and out of control. And who the fuck is driving? And none of us know. And that can be a real scary place. And I will also say that if I can get anything from Bravo right now, hopefully it can be sweet, sweet relief and distraction. And thankfully, we have Beverly Hills starting soon because I am sick of Heather Dubrow. And if seeing these women who are coming together from their respective multi-million-dollar houses is too much right now, take a break from Bravo. Find whatever comfort you need in whatever place you need. As long as it's done with love and permission versus self-judgment and shame, I would think. What do you think, Margie?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a weird week. It just felt like I had a different understanding of how things might turn out. So I felt like I got kicked in the head.
Yeah.
And then buried alive under a pile of trash. But I've been reading a bunch of poetry for this class I teach. And in one of the poems, it talked about the concept of love and action being small and fond and local. Small and fond and local. And so that has stayed with me, and that has been guiding me of the big picture is too big, and it's to my brain. It's like trying to understand the cosmos or string theory for me or something. My brain is just what is happening? It immediately short circuits. So that notion of small, fond, local, it seems very tender and manageable. So that's how I've been sort of moving through my days, is just catching my breath as it gets shallow and then being what can you do that is small and fond and local? What is around you? What is tender? What is sweet and little? And a lot of it has been reaching out to friends, watching my goddaughter's video of my goddaughter's piano recital on repeat because it's just so damn cute in her little dress, and she did a great job. And that is small and fond and local, and it matters to me. It matters to me right now. So anyways, but I know the global issues are real, but I just don't know what to do about them. Certainly
I don't
not
either.
at this moment in time. And so I watched The Real Housewives of Orange County and let them take me away.
Yes.
To the land of unreal problems and In Touch magazine headlines.
I
And
mean, unreal problems. And then we watched Heather and Emily bat Katie around for sport. And I was disgusted. I
well,
was
that's the thing
disgusted.
is this aired on Thursday, obviously a couple days, a mere hours after the election results. And like, I was, I took these notes then. So I don't need to talk about all of the feelings that came up that night, but there were thematically some things that I was like, can the rich people stop just being, why is everyone telling Heather that what she's saying is okay? It's not okay. It's false and it's mean. And why is everyone propping her ass up? And they all looked crazy. Or maybe it was just my TV, but everyone had done some manner of like fillers or threads, and everybody's face looked just different enough for me to feel like I was in a fun house. And I was like, this cast is nuts.
Speaking of faces, would you like an update on my
Yes, let's talk about your face. How was your
stupid my Morpheus
Matrix
8
treatment?
So it turns out I'm not crazy. I was having a reaction to that fucking procedure. I have a nickel sensitivity, and the microneedles are made of fucking nickel.
Gold-plated nickel, but nickel nonetheless.
Gold-plated nickel, but nickel.
But they didn't mention that nickel part.
I am infuriated. I don't think of nickel without thinking Claire's at the mall or the fucking, not that there's anything wrong with the costume jewelry clearance table at Macy's, but I also know what I'm doing when I'm growing through it. I know that I can't wear like costume jewelry rings because I will get like a big cluster of itchy blisters. Like, I know what my body does with nickel. Had I known it was nickel, clearly I wouldn't have done it. But when I drive to fucking Palo Alto to get something done at a plastic surgeon's office, I would assume shit is surgical grade stainless steel. I was mistaken, and I also had to diagnose myself because they didn't know. Oh, this isn't a typical reaction. Like, no shit. So I looked on goddamn Google until I found someone whose face looked like mine. And then, it was shared that, yeah, nickel sensitivity, and I am beyond pissed. I'm on a steroid, antihistamines, antibiotics. And this is all bullshit compared to what we have just experienced as a nation and globally. I understand that. It's just that on top of
But I will say your
this,
jawline looks snatched.
Well,
It looks
I'm still
great.
swollen, but thank you.
If this is still swollen, then it's going to look like.
We'll see, man. We'll see. I'm so itchy. And also, like this recording platform we use, they throw a filter on whether we like it or not.
I like it.
I don't like it.
I know,
don't like it.
Yeah.
Because I don't understand the use of filters, because at some point someone's going to see what you look like in real life. Like, why do you want to fool the people? I don't want to fool the people. Not that anyone gives a shit what my neck looks like. I'm just saying I've never understood that. Like, I get like a normal bit of retouching in my headshots that I have to get, but like other than that.
If you're in a place where you can't maybe achieve the beauty treatments you'd like to have, it is nice to not have on permanent view on fucking Instagram and
I
YouTube
get it.
the worst iteration. You know what I mean?
I do.
When I feel fine, then I fucking take all the filters off. Great. But I don't know. I'm not mad at a filter. Not right now.
I get it. I'm just talking about like fucking Darcy and Stacy from 90 Day Fiancé and TLC. Oh God. I mean, some people just take filters way too far, and you're like, dude, I'm not a dum-dum, and just chill. And also, not to mention, oh, see, I'm going off, and I don't need to go off. It's like the implications of when young people see filtered things and they think that that's what's quote unquote normal, and then they are pursuing things before they're even 25. I just feel terrible for society. And yet I did it myself. And I keep thinking, like, is this karma? Is this Like, is this a lesson that I'm learning? Like,
Or
what?
is it okay for everyone to want to feel good themselves,
Yeah,
whatever
you're
that
right.
means to them? Like, I don't want to shame feeling like beautiful or the beauty industry
I
or
don't
any of
either.
that. Like,
I don't either.
anytime I've been able to get those treatments, I've loved them. They do make me feel better, whatever. But I was watching Ellen DeGeneres has a new special out, and I know she's problematic, and that it wasn't totally satisfying in the way she addressed some of that, but she was talking about how since stopping her show, she stopped doing Botox and fillers and all that stuff. And she was like, I got all that stuff done when I like didn't give a shit about what I looked like. And like, it was just that whole thing about like, we trick ourselves. She was like, I don't care what I look like. It doesn't matter to me. Meanwhile, she's getting Botox and fillers and all the things. It's like, it's okay to just,
And she and Portia started a skincare line that they're actively advertising right now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I mean, again, that's nice, but I just don't think that's the other thing is like, I think that's bullshit. To me, if you're going to get stuff done, get surgery or get Botox, like the skincare lines. I'm just like, come on, you guys, give me a break.
Celebrity skincare can just fuck all the way off as far as I'm concerned.
As
just
someone
learn
who
how to read
ordered-
ingredients, and then you can have all the skills you need to pick out what's going to work for your skin.
I ordered Meaningful Beauty. This was decades ago when it first came out, Cindy Crawford, because apparently the cantaloupe didn't die when they spread Meaningful Beauty on it. So I was like, oh, my cantaloupe of a face, don't let it die. It did nothing. It was so expensive. And I had to lie to them and say I was leaving the country to get them to stop sending it to me. Because I tried to cancel it 100 times. And they were like, can we ask why? And I was like, I think I'm just done. And they're like, well, it's like, And this was before I'd been in Al-Anon. So, of course, I had to like come up with a dramatic lie instead of just saying like, please cancel my order is what I'm calling about.
Right. Oh, I get it. I get it.
If you look like Cindy Crawford, anything is Meaningful Beauty,
Right.
But I don't know. Anyways.
That was a powerful infomercial.
It was, and that was at a time
powerful.
when
I
was
remember it.
going through a deep spell of insomnia. So I was up every night at 3 a.m. and it lasted 2 hours, and I would watch the whole thing. And by week 2 of watching 2 hours a day of a cantaloupe not dying, I was like, I guess I do need that.
Totally.
You know what? That's the solution. It's
totally Meaningful Beauty. Hilarious.
Hilarious.
Oh, so let's talk about these cantaloupes that don't die.
They certainly do not. These cantaloupes, again, were just all shot up with different antibiotics and hormones or whatever was going on in their various faces and lips. It looks like Shannon literally just came from the filler store.
Yeah.
Jen's lips were a little crazy. Tamra's whole face, except her lower lip,
it
is
seemed
immobilized.
to me that a lot of this was makeup. I think that I don't know if they had different makeup artists that day or if they weren't like doing their own makeup. Because I was like, what is different? Emily's eye makeup was different and Gina's eye makeup was different. This is what I noticed, at least. Maybe I'm wrong, but this is what I noticed. And so it made their whole faces look different because of their makeup.
Yeah.
So that's what I noticed. But yes, of course there were nips and tucks and filters, and Tamra, I think, even the first thing that they addressed on the season 18 episode.
Hi, how's your treatment? How's your brow look?
Yeah. So this is season 18, episode 18 of the Orange County Reunion. This is part 1. It's going to be 3 parts. Okay. I took my notes from the Peacock version, but I watched it on Bravo first, and then I took notes, I think, a day later. So they taped the reunion on a Sunday, which I thought was weird, and I was wondering what was going on in everyone's lives that they had to do that on a Sunday.
I wonder.
But just out of curiosity, out of curiosity. And again, Andy reiterated that this is the 100th season of any Real Housewives franchise.
That's crazy.
And it's crazy, yeah.
And I've watched all of them.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's insane to me is I was like, 100 seasons of Housewives, and I've watched all of them.
I mean, I
That's
haven't
crazy.
watched...
That's commitment.
I didn't watch Dallas. I didn't watch Dubai, which is now on pause from what I understand.
I didn't watch the second season of Dubai.
I didn't watch New Jersey. I can't dip my toe in New Jersey. I can't do it. I can't do it. My body is physically unable to watch it.
That's a reasonable reaction. You would have a nickel allergy type reaction
Right.
to Jersey, so skip it.
I can see that. I can
Yep.
see that. So Andy asks Tamra what's up with her face or what she did, and she said she had a CO2 laser, a blue peel, and a brow lift. And I was all, even as I'm like itching like crazy, I'm all, blue peel, CO2 laser, wonder what that is. There's no fucking nickel involved, I bet, but like,
There's
Ramona,
a
learn the
serious-
lesson.
Well, but it's like, if the lesson at the end of all this is that it works, then that's a lesson. Because, Tamra, the Instagram video that she posted where she literally looks like she just walked out of a fire. Like
Yeah.
she's so swollen and it looks so painful and tender. And then she looks great. I mean, her face looks great.
Yeah, I guess so. You can still teach too much of a personality coming through for that woman to
Agreed.
be pretty. To
I
me.
agree. That's how I feel
think
about
she's
Heather
vile.
always.
Me
I'm
too.
like, she looks
Me
great
too.
and her personality just reeks out of her pores. So it ruins it.
Honestly. Emily is no longer working out every day. Shane is working out once a week.
I love it.
Yeah. Andy asks Heather how the construction's going, and she's so like dramatic and hilarious. And remember that vintage South Park episode where everyone gets a Prius and they all like stop to inhale the smell of their own farts? Like that was Heather. Like, oh, you know what it's like, Andy. We talked about it when you're in that part of the construction process where it's just a disaster. But she was just getting such a kick out of herself. And I was like, God, everything you talk about, you are repugnant 24/7 and repellent 24/7. Who likes you, dude? Who likes you?
And it's all just opulent. She's like, it's twice the budget. It's like, we get it. You're rich and you
Right.
can afford to pay twice. But like, I just find her like deeply boring.
Oh, God.
And then we go to Gina, who says her real estate business is going great. Katie reports that Sutton did not offer her advice on how to approach a reunion. They haven't spoken in a couple weeks, which becomes important later when we see that Heather and Sutton have been texting behind Katie's back, which is just like both of them, just so rude. Everyone's so rude.
Yeah, Dubrow looked smug AF when
Yeah, but she and Emily both came off so bad.
they're disgusting. I'm over both of them. They're
Yeah.
irredeemable to me, both of them.
This installment was not a good look for either one of them.
Mm-mm.
Jen reports her wedding will be next June and all the ladies will be invited. And Shannon is blushing because she's recently been on a lot of dates. And I guess that's a reference to the dating show or something.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Which I will be watching.
Oh, of course.
For sure.
Of
For
course.
sure. I want to know it all.
And then Andy moves us into an intentions segment, which I thought was just odd.
Same.
And then he seemed so hopeful, God bless him, for Tamra and Shannon to make up. Because he's like, Tamra, why don't you tell Shannon what your intention was? I was so happy when you shared it with me. And Tamra says, I want to talk about why I was hurt. And then she wants to get to a less or non-toxic place with Shannon. And then Andy proudly announces that she's starting therapy this week, which little did he know would blow up in her face days later when she announced she was autistic. And she's just crazy.
She seemed like kind of taken aback when Andy disclosed that, which I don't know what their conversation consisted of, but I know that had it been me, and I didn't want people to know, I would have been like, gosh, you know what? Can I tell you something just between the two of us? Please don't bring this up with my castmates. But I'm glad that he did, because now we all know and we can hold her accountable, because now we know, I would say even like the most basic, new, wet behind the ears still therapist is still going to like be talking about tools and concepts that are going to be based around personal responsibility.
I'm just so cynical. I think Tamra was mad that he mentioned it because I think she wanted it to be her next season arc. I think she wanted that to be I hope not. I And I don't believe she's actually going to like get help, because he asked, what are your goals? And she said, define where the anger stems
Yeah,
from. And
dude.
it's like,
Yeah.
that's the work you do. But the goal is to have more tolerant relationships, or, it just is like, she just is looking for someone to blame, or
Totally.
something to take the blame off of herself.
I wonder if she continues to be like as toxic and like woefully cruel as she has been, then it's like her behavior is right now, without us knowing that, like, okay, she hasn't been in therapy that we know of. So right now she can still kind of like maybe get away with the excuse that she's acting out of like willful ignorance, you know?
Yeah.
But now that she's going to be going to therapy, like she's going to have no one to blame for her actions except for herself. And I'm wondering if it's coming from like a genuine place, like her decision to go to therapy came from like a genuine place of healthy shame, or like if she's really hit a bottom and she's really curious about where the anger comes from. Because I don't get the sense that she's ready to let it go. Not from what she showed us in this reunion. Like, did Eddie set a boundary? Did her kids tell her, like, dude, if you don't go to therapy, we need to step back. Do you see what we're seeing? Do you see what everyone else is seeing? Do you see what our classmates are seeing right now? Like, this is
I
not
mean, Stella was the one who
okay.
said to her, like, get a therapist. She's like, don't talk to
Sophie,
me. Or
yeah.
Sophie, sorry.
Yeah.
Who's Stella? Is someone have a
Stella
kid named
is
Stella?
Stella is
Okay.
one of Shannon's daughters.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Oh, yes, that's
Which,
right.
for all we know, maybe Stella said, "Hey, Mom, why aren't you in therapy?"
Fortunately, I mean, that's where, like, I believe Shannon's bottom, and I believe her journey to better mental health. Tamra, I don't think she's hit a bottom yet. I think
I
she
don't
is.
either. I
She
don't
is
either.
probably, I hope she's put on pause on this show, but even if she is, she has that incredibly successful podcast. Like, she hasn't lost anything. And I don't think Tamra is the type of person to respond, to be like a seeker and be curious about her mental health unless something like fame or money is threatened. And that's just not
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know if her kids being disgusted at her is enough.
I doubt it. Clearly not. One of her
Clearly not.
kids said, don't mention me on the show. And all
Right.
she did this season was be like,
Right. I know.
So
I don't know. I hope she takes it seriously. I hope that she gets something out of it. She is on a level that I don't understand of toxicity, and she owes us absolutely nothing. But as Orange County fans and as watchers of Bravo, I feel like a valid disgust. It's on tape. And I don't know. We'll
Yeah.
see. And I also wonder if, like, maybe now it'll guarantee her a spot to come back. Like, let's see.
I think that's what
See
she's
what
angling
Tamra
for.
grokked from therapy and if we can see any changes. Like Sai. Let's take Sai, for example, on New York. We've learned in this season of New York that she is in therapy. And I can kind of see it. And I know she's talking about it. And like, no one brought it up. She didn't have to tell us. She's probably got some healthy shame around seeing how she behaved last season. And it's like, oh, shit. Okay, well, that doesn't feel good. I want to do something about it. I don't get that feeling from Tamra, but she hasn't started yet, to our knowledge, at least when we're seeing this reunion. So I don't know.
She's just still so righteous, incapable of apologizing. Like, there's just nothing that indicates that there's any softening that
Nothing.
would leave room for growth. She's just tight
Yeah.
and terrible.
So Andy gets a temperature check from Shannon to see how Tamra's intention landed with her. And didn't land well, Andy. It didn't land well. Shannon says Tamra attacked her and she's not interested in being friends with her because in her therapy, the way she said it, like, let's battle therapy. Okay. In my therapy, I'm learning how to set healthy boundaries, and healthy boundaries mean not being in a toxic relationship. And I don't know, like, I don't know. I don't know what to say about these women, either one of them.
I just love the follow-up to that where Tamra goes, are you saying our entire relationship was toxic? And Shannon goes, absolutely. And I was like, yes, Shannon is absolutely in therapy. And I think the reason she said it like that in my therapy is because hers is real. Like she's going and doing stuff and it's hard. And so for Tamra is just talking about the concept of therapy. Shannon is in therapy.
Yeah.
And it's just a very different thing. Yeah. And then Shannon says that she's not sure. She's open to a reconciliation with Tamra because there's a lot of open wounds here. And Tamra goes like, me too, Shannon. I was like, oh, God.
It was so gross.
Ugh.
It was so gross. Jen's intention is for her and Emily to set forward on a better path. And Emily gets defensive and suspicious of this almost immediately. And I don't believe that Ryan has any influence over who Jen is friends with. I really don't.
I thought this was so rude of Emily.
So
Emily says
stupid.
that she thinks Ryan has made Jen squirrely about being around Emily because Ryan doesn't want Jen talking to an attorney. That was just such a bitchy way to... Jen said, I want to open a new path. And Emily just immediately shut it down by saying something so shitty. It was just gross. Ryan doesn't control Jen.
He really doesn't. He houses her and, clearly dicks her down many times a day. That's like a big part of their storyline, a big part of their relationship from what we understand. Ew, should I take that out? Was that disgusting?
No.
It's so gross. I'm sorry. But yeah, I don't think that he's out there telling her who she can and can't be friends with. I really don't get that.
And then Katie says she wants to own up to a couple of things that she regrets and move forward. And then that's followed by Heather saying that she hopes to leave with almost everyone as a friend. And Katie just looks exasperated already. We're in like minute 2 of this thing. And it's just like, oh my God, Heather, you're so tired. And again, this all stems from Disney pics. Like we're still there. I'm exasperated too. Heather is exhausting.
She's exhausting.
Speaking of exhausting, then we go into the Shannon's drinking segment, which was the majority of this part of the reunion. And it starts with a montage of Shannon ordering drinks and Tamra telling everyone that Shannon's a drunk. And then they showed the scene from the dinner where Tamra says, Shannon needs to stop drinking and get help or I'm done with this relationship. And I was just like, well, this is that Al-Anon concept of don't make threats you don't intend to carry out.
Oh, yeah.
Because here we are. She just opened this thing saying like, I want to reconcile with Shannon. And it's like, oh, but you just so strongly said either she does this and this or we're not friends. So you're just, the two of them are in the most codependent, terrifying alcoholics, like double winners kind of relationship.
Totally.
They both have a peculiar relationship with alcohol and they both have a peculiar relationship to one another. So there's like codependency, there's alcohol dependency and codependency. And it is so painful to watch it unravel in this episode.
I had a revelation about why I hate Heather Dubrow so much strictly from this part of the reunion. Dubrow shared with Andy again that, when they're all sharing the reaction that they're having to like when she got arrested for drunk driving. And she says like in this super like mortified tone, this like holier than thou mortified tone, like, from a doctor's standpoint, her blood alcohol being that high and to be functioning means she has a problem with drinking, strictly from like, Terry being a doctor. And it's like, oh, yes, Heather, exactly. That's what you want me to believe, that you were just thinking about the situation from like a medical standpoint. And that was the only way you were discussing it. Like, I fucking hate her. And I figured out after that is why I don't like her so much. She triggers me because she thinks I'm an idiot. She thinks that we're all idiots and that she's so much smarter than us and we can't see her utter bullshit. I don't believe for a minute that you were talking about it from a medical standpoint. You were gossiping about it just like we all were. Yes, maybe some of your conversations were like the ones you and I had, Margie, where we realized that there were some real repercussions that she is real lucky that she walked away from without killing another warm body, as you said. But Heather thinks I'm an idiot and you're an idiot and that we're all idiots. And she thinks we're going to really believe that that is what the way she was talking about it was from a medical standpoint with her doctor husband.
Yeah, she does that throughout this
That's not
reunion.
groundbreaking, though, is it?
No, but it's her MO throughout this reunion is she just keeps finding loopholes and semantics and ways to get out from under scrutiny. And it's later at the end, she calls out Katie saying, like, there's a story for everything and you have no credibility. And I'm like, that's you, Heather.
Right.
There's a story for everything. And yet, you know, you were able to recite an In Touch magazine article top to bottom. Like, you're full of, like, you know, she is so full of shit and it is so uncomfortable. And again, what bothers me most is that no one on that stage is going like, Heather, come on. You were gossiping about this shit any chance you got. But instead everyone's like, 3 times the legal limit. It is disconcerting. If someone can be awake after that much alcohol, they must drink that much alcohol all the time. And it's like, that's true. But it's also that's not the case of your obsession with Shannon's story.
That's so not the case.
You're a gossipy hag. Sorry, I know you don't like when I use that word, but just in this instance, you know, she is. It's like the 3 witches stirring. Is that Hamlet?
It is.
Where's the 3 witches? I don't know, like stirring the pot. I picture Heather at the center of that gaggle. And Tamra and Emily on either side just going like, yeah. Anyways.
She's not smart enough to be a Shakespeare witch.
No.
She's so lame. Andy reads a tweet that says, hey, Gina, like, why aren't you so pissed at Shannon this season? Because, you know, she went so hard on you last year and then this year she's the one. And Gina, like, doesn't take the fucking rage bait, which I was really proud of her for, you know. And then Tamra has to say, well, Shannon only apologized to you for her behavior last year on camera, not
exactly.
off.
It was the on-camera part. Yeah.
Like, you just got to get those last morsels in, dude. Good luck to whoever.
She cannot help herself. All of those witches on that couch, they were all just constantly, they had something to say about everything. And it was like, you guys will make a much better case if you give it a rest here and there. It's like
honestly,
there was so much over talking and so much, I don't know, it was a lot. And Gina just said, like, I have sympathy for Shannon because I was there and I see that Shannon is remorseful and accountable for her mistake. And I was like, yeah, dude.
Yeah. She had sympathy for Shannon, but no sympathy for Katie at the end of this episode. When, of all people on that stage, I feel like Gina should understand going through a contentious divorce with a toxic ex and now being in a relationship with someone that has a contentious ex, a contentious toxic ex. That's for later in the episode. I'm just saying that,
no, but it's the same thing she did to Jen at the beginning of the year. Like, Gina is so precious about her real estate career that she's like, well, Katie, you lied to me about 2 years of lease to own. And it's just like, oh my God, dude, you have lost the thread. You've lost the bigger picture. And speaking of bigger picture, and the only moment where Emily could see it, she did call out Tamra by saying, you know, calling her an alcoholic was counterproductive to the result you desire. Shannon has to determine the right course of treatment for her. And then this moment was, to me, what it's like why it's so hard to be in a relationship with an alcoholic. So Emily is actually championing Shannon here. And she says Shannon gets to determine the course of treatment that's right for her. And Shannon gets weirdly defensive. And she's like, well, look where I am today. I've never been better.
I know,
and
dude.
Emily was like, you don't have to yell at me. And then Jen quietly says, you're doing amazing, Shannon. And she goes, thank you. And to me, that's my experience in relationship with alcoholics. Is I'm literally praising you and you yell at me and I'm misinterpreted, so I become a target. And then some other schmuck turns to you and says exactly what I said, but just slightly differently, or you're checked in enough to hear it properly. And then they become a hero, and that's the dynamic for the rest of the night or the rest of our lives. Like, that's my experience with alcoholics, is like, if you get misinterpreted, you are a target to be yelled at. And that it was just a weird.
Totally.
a
Uh,
strange moment.
I feel like Shannon also is still in denial, though, because she thinks she's cured now. You
Yes,
know?
she has some awareness and she has acceptance around some pieces of her story, but like not all of them. And I think
Right. Exactly.
that is causing her to still be defensive because
Yeah.
when you're in acceptance of your whole story, it's like Katie. Katie is so calm and centered this whole reunion. No matter what any of those witches throw at her from their couch, she's like, "That's incorrect. No, there were only that I only told one story. No, I'm just correcting you because that information is wrong. And can I tell the story about the road rage incident?" And like she's just so there's nothing to fight back about because all she's dealing in is the truth. And Shannon, I think, is still like guarding parts of the truth. So she's like, no, don't touch that. Don't go down that road because there's still something stinky there.
Dude. Oh, yeah. So there's like a segment where it's like Shannon says versus Tamra says, and Tamra said she called her drunk and didn't call her after the accident. But to be fair, she was in another country filming The Traitors. And then she says that Tamra brings up her drinking every reunion. And then the best edit of all fucking season rolls. And it was like I needed an Al-Anon meeting for how in denial I've been about this woman's relationship with alcohol for 10 years. I was horrified. Margie, were you horrified?
It's so funny. It was like a Kaiser Soze Usual Suspects moment for me where it like all came together. And because every season I've had that feeling. Shannon does make me uncomfortable, the way she drinks and the way she expresses herself when she's drunk. It's always made me feel weird, but seeing the back to back to back reunions. And it's the relationship of Shannon and Tamra. Tamra opens this up by saying this is, the 10th reunion we're talking about her drinking. And then they go back through the past 10 reunions and it's Tamra poking the bear and Shannon responding. And it's like the two of you
Dude.
are in talk about, you've identified this properly as a toxic relationship. Wow. Because it's almost like Tamra doesn't want her to get better. Because if Shannon gets well, then what is Tamra's function on this planet? Her
You're
whole
100%
job is to
right.
point out how drunk Shannon is. And all she does here, she tells the story of like, oh, you called me drunk and then you called me 10 minutes later, still wasted, and told me the same story again. It's like, what is Tamra going to say if she can't point at Shannon and be like, you're a drunk?
Margie,
And
that's so true. You just blew my mind. You just blew my mind.
And I do want to say this happened twice in this episode. Shannon weirdly has like, you know how some people have like a photographic memory? Shannon has like a photographically perfect pitch memory. So this happened twice just in this part. Shannon says, she's telling Tamra she was in treatment for 30 days and you had the audacity to say that all I do is, and then they do a split screen of Tamra screaming, lie, 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 and Shannon saying, lie, lie, lie. And it's the exact same pitch. I'm like, oh my God, you memorized the key that Tamra said, lie, lie, lie in. And then she does it again later with Heather, when Heather said like, oh, Shannon. And when Shannon repeats it back in the reunion, she hits the exact same notes. It was fascinating to me. I was like, oh,
Wow.
Shannon has perfect pitch, I think.
Wow, wow,
Anyways,
wow.
I
And
was
I also,
just, trying to distract myself from the
I also
misery of these women.
needed to go to an Al-Anon meeting because I was like, wow, was her drinking really this bad that Tamra's had to like talk about it at every reunion since 2014? Like, I feel like 2014, that was when the psychotic break, fake concern by Heather Dubrow at the dinner party at Lizzie's house was there, the one where Shannon leaves and she's like, you will all see the truth. You will all see the truth. Talk about perfect pitch. But you can't get that scene out of your head. Come on.
No.
But it's
true.
like, that was
It's
her
like,
identified
that's my opinion. There are
Yeah,
some things that are
exactly.
just like live in a certain.
Yes. Like that season seemed like, I feel like that was almost her first or second season too. And she was the identified patient like from the fucking jump. And she couldn't get out. And she's been trying to get out from that the entire time. And you're right. Tamra doesn't want to let her out. Tamra doesn't want to let her out. Tamra doesn't want to be the identified patient. And now that Andy said that she's going to therapy, she might be the identified patient too.
Well, she's
Tamra doesn't
under
want
threat.
that.
If Shannon keeps getting better, if Shannon keeps getting well, then all eyes will be on Tamra.
Damn, dude.
And I do have to say, like, Tamra is talking about how she's essentially certain that Shannon was drinking during her outpatient treatment over those 30 days. And Shannon's like, there was random drug testing. And I am not inclined to believe that Shannon remained sober during that 30 days. I bet she just hoped for the best and that she wasn't tested on the days when she drank. But I also don't believe it's any of Tamra's business how she treated those 30 days. Like,
Yeah.
it just is not, it's not relevant. And it doesn't make Tamra a hero for calling her out on that. She was in treatment because she hit a house with her car and again, walked her dog and then like passed out on a gurney. So she's not well. Okay, Tamra, this isn't breaking news that she might have had a drink because she had drank so friggin' much leading up to that moment over the last 10 years, according to you. Who could expect her to suddenly anyways, I just don't think Tamra's like the hero she's hoping she is in this episode.
Dude. No.
And Andy, to that point, asked Tamra, like, at what point, like, you seem to think Shannon has a terrible problem. Shannon seems to think that she's got it to a place where she's can manage it. And Andy asked Tamra, at what point do you just say, go with God? That's when we launch into it's been a decade of this behavior.
Dude, it was so gnarly. It was so gnarly. Oh, God. Andy reads a tweet asking about Shannon and Heather's relationship. We've already talked about this. They've already talked about it on the show. Like, who cares?
Except that Jeff Lewis needs to hold an orange at this point. That
Clearly.
man has come up this whole season. He should be in the center holding an orange. And this is Heather using like a Jeff Lewis loophole to get around being an asshole and discussing John potentially having heard Shannon's accident by saying like, well, at that point you talked about it on Jeff Lewis. But if you're a friend, if you had gone on some radio show and talked about some issue in your life that you had previously confidentially shared with me, I would still go to you and say like, hey, I'm thinking about gossiping about this with all the other girls. And you did talk about it on Jeff Lewis. So that's cool, right? I would at least ask you. I wouldn't just like, because again, it's not like Heather delicately brought this up. It was at that dinner where she said to the women like, Shannon is certain that John heard her accident. That's not true. And she just made up a bunch of lies and drama. And anyways, she used another loophole here, which really bothered me.
It's just repugnant. And her apology, like, for it is just such a non-apology. She's just impatient and haughty. And like,
What apology? She said, if you don't trust me with sensitive information, then please, for the love of God, don't share it with me.
Right.
And we'll rebuild from there. And I'm like, that's not rebuilding. That's like you lit a house on fire and you're letting it burn to ash. That's what that is. That's not rebuilding. What are you talking about?
I know. Oh,
Anyways.
God. Emily asks Tamra why she can't say she's sorry for being such a pit bull. And she says she's sorry, but she's not because she rationalizes that, well, she was a terrible person to me. So I don't know, dude.
We get into this thing. We touch on Gina. I think Andy asks, are you more hurt that Tamra brought up this thing of this news story about you potentially having pushed Travis down the stairs? Or are you more pissed off that Shannon was researching it for the reunion? And Gina says she was, at the moment, she was more pissed off that Tamra brought it up on camera. And Shannon said something interesting. She said that Tamra said that Travis's ex-wife reached out to Tamra to spread this gossip. And Shannon goes, someone's always reaching out to you, Tamra. And I was like, yeah, I bet that's how Tamra gets around everything. I'm sure she's constantly digging and running background checks and doing everything she got busted for this season and then playing it off on like, well, so-and-so reached out to me. And it's like,
totally.
I'm certain that's false.
Full victim, absolutely.
Yes,
Full,
that can't be true.
Fell into the gossip, fell into the backstory. Right. Yeah, totally. Oh, God. Oh, and then the episode takes a turn that I wish it hadn't. And this is where we pivot to Katie's package. And
well, not before a brief tits and shits segment.
Oh, God.
Which I thought was so odd. I'm like, this feels long already. And now we just spent like 5 whole minutes on Shannon's shelf of boobs and who is pooped and when. And it was gross.
Ew. Gross.
It was gross leading into Katie's
gross.
segment. I thought that was rude.
Oh, God. I didn't even notice it like that. But you're right. Oy. This was just like awful. This whole thing was like awful to me. It was awful. I mean, Katie shares a little bit about the arrangement she has with her two sons that we don't really see. One
And
was in
everything she said makes sense.
Completely.
Complete
I
sense.
agree.
The kid, one of them stayed in Atlanta because that's where he's in school. That's where his friends are. That's where his familiar environment is. I would do the same. If my parents divorced and one of them moved, I would stay where my friends are. Like, that's not dramatic. And her other son, she said her ex wouldn't sign a waiver. And when that son turned 18, he signed his own waiver. And so there are some images of him toward the end of the season, I guess. But none of this like weird gotcha interrogation of Katie was, but they got everything. Every item was wrong. There was, I do think it's weird. Gina mentions that Katie had said she owned the home she lived in. And it is weird that she did not mention that the agreement was that she would pay 2 years of rent and then the house would change hands and become hers to own. But it's also like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, until there's an actual deal on the table. And that's when Gina sees this. Like, it sounds to me like they were generally talking about the housing market. I don't know. It didn't feel like they were far enough along in those discussions for Katie to have to disclose every term of the purchase of the home she was currently in.
I agree.
Especially because it's annoying. Yeah. It's an annoying term, but like, I get it.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's not unheard of. It makes total sense. Anyways, whatever.
No, I agree. Again, I think I said this earlier for like a second, but like, there's minor children involved. She has a monster of an ex-husband, it sounds like. She has parents that didn't stand by her while she was going through this because they don't believe in divorce. Again, Gina is in a relationship with Travis, who has a complicated divorce going on. Emily is married to Shane, who is divorced and co-parents his daughter that we never really see on camera with his ex. These two women specifically going after Katie so hard felt diabolical to me. I was fucking disgusted by both of them. I was disgusted.
All of the women go after her here, and it was so gross, except Jen. God bless Jen.
Yeah.
Because Gina's like, all of Katie's stories are shady, and Jen says, maybe, but she has an explanation to fill in any holes. And Gina's like, but do you believe all of the explanations? And Jen goes, she's given me no reason not to.
I love that answer.
And to me, it's just like, she's new to you guys. Ask more questions. Be curious. Instead of listening to one element of the story, I own this home, ask more questions about what are the details of the contract. Like, Gina, if you're such a, whip real estate agent, like, get curious, get to know this woman. Because to me, that's all that happened throughout this segment, is everyone was so quick to like cite their oppo that they did from In Touch magazine. And then Katie easily explained what the discrepancy was. And it sounds like she was living in a women's shelter alone without her children because her husband was such a monster. And yes, Gina, they can, if it's a civil case, they can serve papers and leave them without actually handing it off to the person they're serving it to. But they were trying to poke holes in every element of her story. It was insane. It was like a bloodlust they all had.
Completely like a bloodlust. It was disgusting. Yep. I agree. And God bless, again, I never saw it coming a million, miles away. I never saw this coming. Like Jen being the one who makes me not lose hope in humanity from this cast, like she's either super, super naive and Pollyanna, or she's got the biggest heart. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
It's both, I think.
Glad she's there. Yeah.
And Katie came out shining like a diamond because Andy was like, well, there's a $5 million lawsuit. And she was like, yeah, I was just dropped from that because it has nothing to do with me. And I was like, girl. and then Heather starts to go ahead.
No, yeah. Just like, I don't know. Heather, there's just a lot of hinky stories. Hinky. What the fuck is hinky? She's so lame. And she shares that Sutton called her or texted her and said that, Katie threw her under the bus. And so she's got to get that out. I guess if I were Heather, I'd probably do the same thing. But at the same time, I don't know. I'm not pumped on Sutton anymore. I don't know.
You know,
I
I've always,
I know.
I don't care for her one bit.
I'm really side-eyeing Sutton Strack coming into the season of Beverly Hills, and I'm really grateful I woke up. I think that this is like rich lady to rich lady, saving their ass to saving their ass. They don't give a shit about people.
She's the Heather Dubrow of Beverly Hills.
I agree.
Which is why they protect each other, which is
I'm starting to see it.
gross.
I'm starting to see it, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful.
And then there was a viewer question that asks Katie to describe what happened at Sutton's Christmas party. And Heather immediately answers and starts bullshitting about, well, there were 3 different stories. One of them was the driveway, and Katie was like, that's not true. Oh, one of them was with me and blah, blah, blah. And Katie was like, you know, half of that is right. And Heather kept going, my turn to speak. I'm still speaking. I'm not done. It was
in that tone that only a rich white lady
it was
can
so
conjure.
Condescending and so pointed and so, it felt gross.
It felt disgusting, to quote Tamra.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
And then Gina is weirdly defending Heather, claiming like it would have been in her best interest to say hello to you at the party. And it's like, this is when I was like, I cannot stand sycophants defending rich fuckers. And they're lying.
Totally.
Katie did not tell 3 stories. I watched the season. She told 1 story. Of the 3 stories Heather told, I'd never heard one of them. And the driveway story I'd never heard. The standing in line story, Katie told several times the exact same way. And then this 3rd story apparently happened at another party where Heather snubbed Katie. So it's like,
Plus,
oh my God.
Let's consider the source. If the source is Sutton Strack, she was probably fucking wasted at her own party. And then she's gonna be the one in charge of like relaying the facts in quotations to Heather. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the viewer question was related to Sutton's Christmas party, where there was the moment in time between Heather that Katie reported Heather ignoring her.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Is that like,
but Sutton wasn't there for that.
Who told her the stories then? Who told her the 3 stories?
Heather, I think, made up the driveway one because I'd never heard that. Katie told the one where she was waiting in line behind her and Heather sneered at her and then looked away. And then there was a 3rd story that Heather told that Katie was like, oh, well, that was from a different party that Sutton hosted when you were rude to me. So it was like,
oh my God.
It sounds like, but Sutton did relay the information about Katie asking to use her home in Augusta to host some golf event. And Sutton was pissed off that there wasn't enough golf star power there. Calm down. And then Katie said, but I'd offered to pay for everything, including the catering. So if Sutton's upset, that's news to me. Then we get another viewer question about like how can it be there's no one person who runs all the paparazzi in Los Angeles. And I don't know if you noticed that Heather laughed way too hard. She was like, I was like, oh my God.
Yes, I did. And Heather wants to know why Katie cared enough to even bring it up to begin with, which I guess was a fair question, but also it's the housewives. And this is relevant because Dubrow is a housewife. And yeah.
I just can't stand Heather. Heather thinks she's hilarious in this segment. She's like, about the paparazzi, she's like, I didn't call anybody. I didn't wink at anybody. I didn't pass a note in biology. And she literally at that point does a take to where the monitors are. I saw her eyes go down to where the monitors are on a stage usually to like look at herself doing her hilarious comedy bit. And I'm like, you're disgusting.
She's disgusting.
And this is also where she, again, does not understand comedy because out of nowhere, she's like, also, Katie, why do you care? And I was like, is when you're trying to quiet someone down. Like, you got it wrong. Like, Heather needs a writer. She just needs a writer and a coach, a comedy coach. She's off the rails. It's bad. And this is when she said to Katie, nothing about you adds up. I think there's a story for everything and you have absolutely no credibility. And I wrote, she's like rubber, you're like glue, Heather.
I was going to say, you spot it, you got it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, seriously. And then she says she falsely accusing, someone is kind of your thing. Like, again, just like getting those digs.
Leading into this, Katie is she's so understatedly perfect that it almost got lost from time to time. So Heather's screaming at her like, bup, 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 why do you care? And Katie had the perfect response. She just says, honestly, Heather, I didn't think you would find this so rattling. And I was like, oh, it's been a whole season of Disney Pick Gate. And then that's when Heather goes for what she hopes to be the jugular and winds up just being the most shameful. So Heather read an In Touch article, which did not present Katie's side of the story at all. And Emily, being deliberately irresponsible, said that Katie falsely accused someone and he ended up going to prison. And he went to jail. He did not go to prison. Prison is where you go for long terms of time. Jail is where you're like held for, a day to a month or so for a trial, which was not even as long as this man stayed. To me, it sounded like a road rage incident. And the fact that Heather would give any grace to a man who would yell at a woman and threaten her with his... I'm sorry he was triggered. I'm deeply sorry for his loss. It sounds like someone who was texting and driving killed a family member of his. If I see someone drinking a beer in a car, I don't get to run them off the road and yell at them about my father's drinking. Like, she was in the car with her 3 kids. It sounds like a very scary incident. The man did not sound stable because when the police asked him to calm down, he got so aggravated that they tased him and took him to jail, not prison. And honestly, everyone should do what Katie did. You should try to pull over to let the person with the rage go away. If they continue to threaten you, you should call the police. And she said to Heather, like, if you read my account, my police report filed at the DeKalb County Police Department, you would see my side of the story. In Touch reported the police's and this other gentleman's side. And yeah.
And okay, I want everyone to also remember that she's in fucking, did this happen in Augusta? I think she said like Cobb County or something, and I don't know where.
Yeah, that's like outside of Atlanta.
So like, she's a woman of color. This is 10 years ago. Emily, who works with the Innocence Project, proudly says, cops lie? Oh, like egregious, like she can't.
That was terrifying.
I was mortified.
Have they not been alive since, I don't know.
Oh, they've been alive.
Were they not here in 2020? Did they not
sure were.
See 1992?
They sure were. Yeah, exactly.
Police are corrupt. They're notoriously corrupt. Do you watch TV? That's what every police show is.
I was talking to Leo the other day about
and they have
unions.
A racial bias, like you said.
Yeah, hello. I was talking with Leo the other day, trying to like explain to him. We were talking about the election results, and I don't remember how we got on the subject of unions, but I was like, we are a pro-union family. I was like, except for one union. No, I will never be pro-police union. Fuck that. All other unions, yeah, but not that one. Until I have a good reason to be. That just feels like liars helping liars. I don't know. Fuck, I don't know. Am I going to get canceled now for saying that? Probably.
No, I don't know enough to say. I'm just ignorant. So I like don't know what to say except that I lived in Los Angeles in 1992 and that didn't seem great. When there was video of police officers beating a defenseless man and then getting acquitted.
Yep.
And then in 2020, when we watched a snuff film and the same outcome, it just felt like when they were like, the police lie.
I know.
I was like, you guys.
Yeah, it was every single thing that Katie brought up made me sadder and sadder. And everything that she wasn't struggling for words. Everything had a very reasonable explanation. And instead of compassion, Emily is just pure suspect. And I was disgusted, but I don't like Emily anymore. She can go. I don't need her back on this. She brings nothing anymore.
And the fact, again, I will be so curious if they revisit what went on between her and Heather this season. Heather was disgusting to
Oh,
Emily.
yeah.
And for Emily and Heather to appear to have done their research together because they were tag teaming telling this story for Katie. They, God forbid, they let Katie tell her story. Andy Cohen had to stop them and say, like, I'd like to hear the story from the person who was there. And it's also a decade-old story. Like, they dug hard to try and get something to gotcha her. And basically what they wound up finding out is that, like, she lived in a shelter and built her life back up so she could get her kids back. Now what?
It's
and then Heather
disgusting.
comes over and apologizes, and it's just like, no.
Heather,
Katie handled that so gracefully, and I was like, I would have just punched her.
I would have shot my middle finger up and said, get the fuck out of my face for the rest of my goddamn
Yeah,
life.
that's a shallow, hollow
You're a piece
apology.
of shit, and you know you're a piece of shit, and that's the only reason why you're over here apologizing is because you know you're a piece of shit right now. You are not the empath that you say you are. You are not who the spokesperson of Family Equality Wines should be.
Right.
You hateful, see you next Tuesday. Get the fuck out of my face.
And then Andy did this moment I did not care for. Andy goes, any other questions for Katie? And I was like, Andy. And then Emily so inappropriately
Oh my God.
asked about Katie surrendering custody of her kids to her ex. And this was just such a bad look for Emily because she's like, well, I did some research and this is what I found. And only if you're incompetent or sign away all your rights because you're a terrible mother do they get legal decision-making rights. And Katie was like, I don't know what was happening. I had no help. My family had rejected me. I had to leave my husband. And again, this is where I just say, like, people like Emily and Heather have never had real problems. Because the fact that they couldn't even conceive of something bigger going on is, like, tragic. And Katie had no help, no Terry, no in-law funding, no parental support even.
No Perry and Mr. Perry. Right, exactly.
It's
Oh my
a very
God.
ugly look for Emily and Heather.
It was butt ugly. And, like, how does she know how the fuck Georgia law works? You know, if you're barred in the state of California, and is her attorney license even active? I don't fucking know. I don't care. Once you know law, you probably know law. I can give her that.
Look,
But
and what she said was probably right. The fact that she said it in an accusatory tone.
it was disgusting.
Instead of saying, like, help me understand how, because Katie clearly was in crisis. You don't move into a shelter if you're fine. She had to get out of that house for some reason and couldn't bring her children with her, which clearly destroyed her. And when she said, like, I never missed a visit with them, I didn't miss a single visit, in tears, it was just like, again, Emily, congratulations on your incredibly easy life.
This is her trauma. This is her trauma and feeling abandoned by her mom. And so she's projecting that onto Katie, I wonder.
Oh, that's interesting.
You know, and I just thought of that right this second.
You're right.
You know, because she's so mad. She's so mad at Katie when Katie is clearly, like, you can't fake being a good mom on TV. I don't think, like, in these shows.
Not with little kids, because they
Not with little
react to you in a
kids,
way
right.
that's like either they're scared of you because they don't know you, or they're
Right.
super comfortable with you and they run their
Right.
hands through the candy and go, so soothing.
Oh my God, Bandon's so fucking cute.
He's so cute.
That Heather, for the millionth time, being mean to you for the millionth time, like, oh my God, I just love that kid. I don't question Katie's loyalty and ferocity for her children.
She fought to get him back.
Yeah,
She was in a shelter and had
Emily's
signed all over custody rights and got them back. If Emily's
This is
looking
all
for a heroic mother, she found one. Katie's it. I'm sorry Emily's wasn't, but
I know, right? Anyway. So this is part of the episode where we turn to Jen and Ryan and a little bit of Tamra package, you know. She says that she never considered ending her engagement, to which I wrote, yikes. I really did, and I needed to keep a mortarboard to keep track of the gambling scandal, and I think I finally figured it out. Not before, though. I had to watch a YouTube that was really helpful. Apparently, the day that the news came out, they were notified that the article was going to come out. And he had already been talking to the FBI by then for 7 months. What Jen tells us is that Ryan and his attorney reached out prophylactically to the feds. And I was all, do you do that? Do you prophylactically reach out to the feds? Or do you wait for them to come to you? I
mean,
don't know.
If the lawyer got wind that this was happening, the lawyer would be smart to be like, to get ahead
Okay.
of this and in good faith, the best way to secure immunity is for us to go to them. But either way,
Either way,
either way,
yeah.
Jen does not understand the concept of immunity. God bless
Yeah.
her.
And I did a lot of Googling on what immunity is. Like my search history was fraught with full use immunity. What does this mean? And it just means that you can't, whatever
prosecuted.
you can't be prosecuted for what you're talking about. He could still be prosecuted for something else having to do with this, for stuff that
No,
he,
I'm
didn't
sure
talk
it's an
about
airtight deal. I'm sure.
for this whole thing.
Yeah.
Damn, dude.
You don't
He's
sign an
fucking
immunity
lucked
deal
out.
unless you are, because again, it's not like when you sign an immunity deal, you are safe from prosecution. You are not safe from the gangsters roaming the streets. And Ryan, honestly, like any good gangster, clearly has kept Jen in the dark about a lot of this stuff because I really believe she doesn't know. And that's the sign of like a good seasoned gangster, is to like leave your lady out of it so she can't implicate you or get herself in trouble. Good
Tony
for you,
Soprano.
Ryan. Right?
Yep, 100%.
Exactly.
100%. Yep. Emily asks, well, then why did you act surprised when Tamra brought up the FBI at Katie's dinner party? And this is where Jen got like a little like sweet summer child to me. And she's like, because Ryan wasn't in trouble with the feds. And I was like, Jen, he wasn't in trouble with the feds, but he wasn't not in trouble with the feds. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
Like,
Shannon's answer was better, where she was like, as someone who's in an active lawsuit, if someone brings it up on camera, you don't dive in and go like, oh, well, here's how it's going with the Fed. Like, you're not going to fucking talk about it on camera, you jackass.
Yeah.
And that was done for shock value. Tamra didn't really want to hear what was going on with the feds. She did that to get the desired result, which was to shock and horrify and scare Ryan and Jen.
And maybe put the nail in the coffin of her marriage. Not unclear still. Like, we'll see what happens. But like, did Eddie say therapy or I'm out?
I mean, again, that
I don't know.
haunting image of him watching her drink to me just spoke volumes.
Yeah.
Because it looked like such a familiar feeling to him that he was having, that it just was like, oh man, it's a shell of a man. Then Emily starts talking about how she's read everything about the case, which is also like disgusting and like stay in your lane. And she was talking about how they laundered money over 32 trips to Vegas, which was like, it is pretty. Ryan cut a sweet deal if he is not being tried for any of this. That's amazing. And Jen claps back. Every now and then, she really does get it. She just goes like, well, I read that your in-laws fund your whole life. And Emily was like, you could see it caught her off guard for a second. And I was like, good.
I've read that on Reddit as well.
Apparently, the look on Emily's face indicated to me that there is truth in that.
Yeah, 100%.
And
100%.
Emily says, I'd have more respect for you and Ryan if you just said he's made bad decisions. And Jen was just like, I don't owe you that. And then she goes even deeper and she goes, I don't ask you how many cases Shane has. I don't ask you like whatever. And then Emily shuts her down saying, you do this Tammy Wynette stand by your man thing. And sometimes you need to just be accountable. And honestly, of anyone on that stage this season, I think Jen has been the most accountable of all of them.
I think so,
too. She was
too.
evicted. She never tap danced around it. She fielded all of their vitriol, their unsupportive assholery, as she had nowhere to live with her children.
Abuse.
Yeah, abuse is the
from
word.
Emily.
Yes.
She was abused by that woman.
So I think she's right to stand by her man, certainly before she stands by Emily in any way, because Emily is just a proven monster this season.
My God.
Anything else on the episode?
Mm-mm.
What else did you watch this week?
I had Summer House on in the background, I think probably sometime after the election, and I had to actually go back and rewatch because I was so checked out, like doom scrolling. And I was like, oh shit, Carl and Lindsay got engaged and I missed it. So I had to rewind it. And I am sad that we only got to see one season of Chris the Honduran. And I was like, oh my God, I really liked the night that he and Danielle made a Honduran food and they talked about, being the two Latino cast members in the house. And so I'm still enjoying it a lot. And I do think I will rewatch season 8 just to prepare for when we eventually get to talk about or see Summer House in a couple of months, I would assume. Let's see what else. I don't know. I don't really think there was anything else other than, Salt Lake City and New York, which was such a terrible episode. And Aaron talking about being the fucking Ponce de Leon of mezcal to the United States made me want to throw my television out the goddamn house. I was so pissed.
That was
of all the women on the planet to talk about mezcal. I was like, please get the fuck out of my face forever. I hate you. I really do. I don't remember anything else about that episode. New York is very boring this season. Salt Lake is good. I don't like Bronwyn. I don't like Bronwyn at all. I don't trust her at all. She was trying to be an influencer for a long time before she got cast on this show. And I think she had a lot of followers for her fashions. But there's something about her I don't trust. She talks about how she was in finance and people on Reddit have Googled and she was an executive assistant for a finance company. And there's nothing wrong with that. I was an executive assistant at a commercial real estate company and they were so sweet and kind to let me go on auditions on my lunch break or rearrange my schedule. And they were nice people. But I don't say I worked in commercial real estate. Do you know what I mean? Because I didn't. I don't know. TBD on her, but I don't like her. I don't like Lisa Barlow at all anymore. And I rode hard for Lisa Barlow at one day and time. She's mean.
I still have yet to watch it, but I listen to podcasts about it.
Mm-hmm.
Until I see the source material, I shouldn't really comment. But the mezcal thing made me laugh out loud. I was like,
My
what?
God.
And it sounds like she thought that she's introducing it to the States or something. I'm like, mezcal has been around. I know it's been around forever because I've hated it forever. I don't like a smoky tequila. And I've made the mistake. I remember in 2013, I got sick on that shit because I don't like smoky tequila.
I mean, I didn't grow up with it, but it was always out at any family gathering.
Like you said, it certainly doesn't seem like.
But no,
Aaron was like, I found it. I discovered something.
Me, it was just, it gave such colonizer. I wanted to just vaporize.
That's wild.
Yeah. And what did you watch this week?
Per our guest last week, Beth Crosby mentioned The Penguin. And I started watching that, and I am ashamed to say I didn't know anything about it. And I was like, who is this actor? He's so unusual looking and really good. And then I'm sure it's Colin Farrell. Mm-hmm. And he is in such intense makeup, and he works it so, he's so good. I can't believe it. So I watched 4 episodes of that, and I'm riveted. And I don't like any of that shit. I don't care about Marvel, DC universes. I don't like any of that superhero shit. This is not that. This is The Sopranos.
Okay,
it is a pure
I'll watch it.
New York gangster. Watching it in the wake of the election, there's misogyny storylines. There's take no shit women in this cast, and it's fascinating. Beth was right.
Okay.
It was great.
I can't.
I mean, I have more episodes to go, but the 4 that I watched, I was absolutely glued. So good.
I can't believe I forgot to tell you this, but I watched Anatomy of Lies.
Oh,
I watched all 3, and I thought I knew everything about that story. I didn't know anything about that story. That was riveting. That is such a good docuseries. I can't even, it had everything, as Stefan would say. It had everything. It had Hollywood celebrities. I can't even imagine being someone that could lie like that. It was so good. If anyone has Peacock and you don't have anything to watch right now, turn on Anatomy of Lies. It was fascinating.
It is fascinating. It truly is. Whoa.
Riveting.
That is a character study and a half
Big time.
right there.
I want a follow-up. I want everything. I want to know what she's doing now. Like, I want to know all of it.
There was some article, I forget the publication. I never saw the Vanity Fair article, but I read this article where she's interviewed, and it's long and it's fascinating, and she's remorseless. She's like, yeah, I wish I hadn't done that, but and then the author is like, as she sits in her Topanga mansion, because she'll never suffer a consequence. She'll get residuals for the rest of her life off Grey's Anatomy, which runs everywhere nonstop all day, every day. So, and
Wow.
she was like planning her comeback, and she's like, everyone loves the comeback. I'm like, I'm not sure we're gonna love one from you,
Oh
you
my
cancer
God.
liar,
That
among
was
a million other things. So
those poor kids, man. That's the
Oh
part
my
that,
God.
yeah, she really, I mean,
And they went through it before her.
they went
And
through it
like,
before
my
her.
God.
That was by
Anyways,
design, by design. Anyway, I'm not going to spoil anything, but all I can say is holy crap.
it was a real, like, every
Excellent
time a new
docuseries.
fact was presented, I was like, what? No,
I know,
what?
exactly.
Oh my God. They
Exactly.
just kept
It was
coming.
so gnarly. So
Wild.
gnarly. I'm sorry. I co-opted your, what did you watch? Did you watch anything else?
I think that was really it.
Okay.
I watched The Penguin, and then I just listened to podcasts. I didn't spend a lot of time on the proper TV this week. And what was your antidepressant?
My antidepressant has definitely been this. And I was able to do some consciousness expanding psychedelics yesterday. And it was the perfect time to do them. And it definitely helped dissipate some of my terror. Rightfully so, to be terrified right now, rightfully so. Unfortunately, when I get terrified, I can't get out of bed. I need to get out of bed because I have a child and I have a husband and I want to be an active part of my community and I want to be a good friend. And so to be able to do something that helped me become the person I want to be, like become more in alignment. Okay, to be able to access the person that I know I am from the help of these medicines is what was my significant antidepressant this week. Because I was like, I just kept looking at Josh every day, like, I don't know how I'm going to survive this. And I don't even have shit to worry about other than the fact that, like, I don't pass for white. You know, that's my only problem right now,
That's
other than watching the
significant.
suffering around of them. I know that it's significant. I know that
Yeah.
it is, but I live in California.
Yes, we are deeply blessed.
I live in California,
That's a
and
gift.
before I did my consciousness expanding psychedelics, I wanted to leave. And I'm still not saying I don't want to leave and go to another country. I could flee if I wanted to. I don't want to, but I could. Not everybody can. So I want to make it crystal clear that I am aware of the privileges that I have. I'm aware that I was able to do a consciousness expanding psychedelics yesterday that could help me shake off my terror and restore me to not being numb anymore, you know? And I know that that is not the case for many, many, many people who are feeling terror and numb. And part of what I love about psychedelics is that I really hate myself when I can't access the part of me that has empathy for either myself. Like when I'm so scared that I can only see like, well, that's not true. I don't want to fucking throw myself under the bus right here. Part of why I felt so numb is because I can't save everybody. And that's part of what brought me to doing ketamine in the first place, was because I couldn't save every child that was living in a traumatic household. No one needs me numb. They need me feeling my empathy, and they need me being a good mom so that I can like raise a kid that can be a beacon of hope and change in the world. When I'm knocked out with depression from numbness, I can't do that. Am I making sense? I feel like I'm just like not making any sense right now.
You are.
But that's my point. My point is that I acknowledge everything that I have at my disposal. I acknowledge that not everybody has that at their disposal. That makes me sad. It makes me sad. I don't like it. I'm trying to do whatever I can to level the playing field. That's what I want my purpose to be, you know? I'm open. I remain open to how I'm supposed to do that. And I've put it out to people. Like, if you can use me, let me know how. So,
That's so valuable.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm
yeah,
sure, as they say, more will be revealed.
more will be
Like,
revealed.
as things progress, I'm sure opportunities to be useful will make
mm-hmm,
themselves clear.
mm-hmm. Yeah. How about you, friend? What was yours?
My antidepressant is, I think it's dance. I went last week. I went to go see this dance concert, and it was put on by this choreographer whose class I take, and he is just like an absolute visionary, like the nicest, most humble human being, the most like unassuming presence until he is on stage dancing or choreographing. And it was just like the power of music and movement and art is so moving to me. And especially, so this was pre-election. And then after the election, my brain just kept calling up images from that night. It was like a 2-hour dance concert, and it just kept up calling up like the beauty of musicality and the beauty of like bodies and the beauty of like masses of people moving together in some of these numbers. And it matters. It's magical. And like, I have a feeling, the next few years, I'll need to tap into sources of like magic and beauty and,
For sure.
and so I just want to remember that. And then most Sundays I take this guy's class, and I did it again today. And it was just like, nothing is normal, but there's a sense of community. There is something transformative about music and movement and a bunch of people doing it together. And I don't know what to call that, but I know that I don't want to stray from that over the next few years. Like, it's been a lovely, like, buoying place to hang out for the last year for me, but I have a feeling I'm going to it will be a place where I remember who I am and remember what matters and remember what humanity is about. I'm probably putting too much pressure on it, but that's what it felt like today. In that class, I was just like, remember to come back here all the time, because this is all there is, and don't lose sight of that,
Totally.
So
Totally. It's so
yeah.
important to remember what your truths are, especially like at a time right now.
Yeah, and it's different for everyone. Like, whatever recreational hobby or something brings you that feeling, like whether it's reading, getting lost in a book, or knitting, or like everybody has something where they tap into like a different consciousness. I can't believe
Yeah.
I'm using these words, but like
No, I get it.
it's so much bigger and more magical than little old me. So yeah, that was super valuable last weekend and today.
I'm really glad.
Me too.
I'm really glad. Well, everyone, that brings us to another end of an episode of A Therapeutic Dose. We're very glad that you were able to join us, and hope that you were able to feel some reprieve or just
some
whatever
righteous
you needed.
anger at Heather
Right.
Dubrow.
Yeah, some righteous. Remember, at the end of the day, you're not Heather Dubrow.
Yeah.
You're not Heather Dubrow. And that's a mitzvah in itself. Yes. Sorry, Heather, but you know, oh God, do I spot it? I got it?
In some way, I'm sure.
Fuck.
Likewise. Well, and I always know it's just envy, because like I feel like
Okay.
if my problems were complaining about how expensive and time-consuming construction on my new multi-billion-dollar home of 5.
Right.
I have 5
Right.
homes. Like, I know that I want what she has in that way. What a great problem to have. You have no real
Yeah.
problems. So
I get it. I get
I
it.
want to live a life of no real problems. So it's just envy.
Lord,
So be
Lord,
it.
Lord. Please pass on the podcast to your friends if you are so inclined, or to your other Bravo fans in your life. We would really appreciate it. You can always find us on Instagram at A Therapeutic Dose, or you can send us an email to atherapeuticdose@gmail.com. And I would like to work on our website soon, so that we have an actual atherapeuticdose.com email. That would be the most exciting thing.
That would be amazing.
Mm-hmm,
We'll
mm-hmm.
get there. Let's make it an end of the year goal.
All right.
Before 2025.
I love that. Okay. I have things to do. We have lots of things to do. Both
Small and fond and local.
Small, fond, and local. I love that, Margie.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, just take really good care of yourselves this week, whatever that looks like. Ease and grace, compassion for yourself.
Yeah. And we'll talk next week.
We'll talk next week. All right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Ramona and Margie are, obviously, not doctors and do not provide medical advice. Their content is intended to be used for entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to be, should not be interpreted as, or used as a substitute for medical advice or a diagnosis of any health or fitness problem, condition, or disease, nor a recommendation for a specific test, doctor, care provider, procedure, treatment plan, product, or course of action.
My mom isn't a doctor.